Sometimes the function that you want to pass to an abstract function, the function you're passing as an argument, doesn't exist yet. In those cases, you can always define it with local if you want to, but there's a very interesting subcase where you must define it with local. That's what we're going to look at in this video, is what to do when the function you want to pass to an abstract function doesn't yet exist. I'm in closurestarter.racket, and this file is like built-in starter in that it defines 5 images for us to use, and it defines a list of those images, but it doesn't define those functions like wide and tall. Those predicates aren't defined in here. So in some sense, what's going to happen in the problems we deal with is we're going to wish we had those predicates, and we'll have to define them and others. The rest of the file has problems, again, similar to those in using built-in starter, but the difference here is that I've gone all the way to the template stage, just to get us going more quickly. So wide only is the function we saw before. We're supposed to produce a list of only those images that have their width greater than their height. And here's the check expect, and there's the stub, and here's the template. I've got the template commented out so that I can run all the tests. So now we say we're going to go forward. Here we've got the template. Now what do we put in the dots? What do we put in the dots? Well, we don't have wide question mark anymore. We don't have the function we need to put in the dots. So let me show you kind of the full way you want to do this. You kind of want to say something like, well, if each image is I, then what I'm trying to say is the width of that image greater than the height of that image? That's kind of what I wish I could put there. But I can't put that there. I have to put a function there. But that's kind of what I wish I could put. So what will I do? Well, I'll make myself a function. And since this is a relatively simple function, and we're pretty far along in the course, I'm going to define it using local. And now that I've defined that function using local, I can just put it there. I'll just put wide question mark there. And now I've managed to say what I think I want to say. I've got this function. Let me change its line breaking a little bit to make it a bit more standard. I could change its line breaking a bit more to make it a bit easier to read. Let's try that. Now I've got some failing tests, but I think those are farther on in the file, and they are. The test for wide only is succeeding. So that function's done. So the big idea here was, hey, you know, the function that I need to pass to filter doesn't exist yet. That's not a problem. I'll just define it. And since it's a super simple function and it's pretty far along in the course, I'll define it using local rather than defining it as a top-level function and going through the whole design recipe. But remember, the design recipe is there to help you, not hinder you. If you're not sure how to design the wide question mark function, then do design it at top level and do follow the whole recipe and work the whole thing through so that you get it right. If, on the other hand, you see what wide question mark has to be really easily, define it with local. Let's keep going. This next case is going to be a little bit different. Now I want a function called wider than only that consumes a number and a list of image and produces a list of only those images in the list with width greater than W. So if I say wider than only 40, LOI1, I only get I4 and I5. Because if we go up here to look at LOI1, only I4 and I5 have width greater than 40. So let's pop back down here to wider than only. I'll comment out the stub. I'll uncomment the template. Now what are we going to put here? Clearly it's a filter. What goes here? Well, what goes here is something like, let's see, it's something like greater image width of I, assuming again that the image is I, W. It's something like that. And now this case has a very important property. And the property is this. The body of the function that I need to pass to filter, the body of the function that I pass to filter is going to be something like this, right? Notice that this body refers to a parameter of the enclosing function. It refers to W here, which is a parameter of the enclosing function. And when you have that property, when the body of a function that you need to pass to an abstract function makes reference to a parameter of the enclosing function, then you must define the function you pass using local. And I'll show you why. I'll define a predicate wider than question mark of I, and that'll be its body. And I'll put wider than there, and I'll test it. And it is working, I'm pretty sure. Yes, this is a test for farther down in the file. So wider than is working. Look at what's happening here. If I do check syntax, then the width of I has to be greater than W, and this W is defined by the enclosing wider than only function. It's a parameter of the enclosing wider than only function. And it can be referred to here because of lexical scoping. If I tried, on the other hand, let's try the other approach. If I tried, on the other hand, to define wider than at top level, so I'm taking this wider than out of the local, and I'm defining it out here, and I'll comment this version out. So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to define this wider than predicate at top level rather than using local. And it's just not going to work. It's not going to work because this W here doesn't exist at top level. This doesn't work. Let me comment both of these out and go back to this one. This one works because the W used in the body of wider than, this W is a parameter of the enclosing function. It's the rules of lexical scoping that let it be used here. Out here, this W is nothing. The terminology that we use for this, because we want to use fancy computer scientist terminology, is that wider than is what's called a closure, and it closes over the surrounding value of W. And if you want to see why this works, let's just try hand stepping this case. We'll hand step wider than only 40 LOI 1. By putting it here, I'll cause the stepper to get to it before any of the check expects. So we'll step that. And let's see, we're defining a bunch of images, so this I'll do very quickly. There's all the images being defined. There's the list being defined. Let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Let me make it even a bit bigger. So now we've got wider than only 40 LOI1. LOI1, of course, evaluates to that list. Let's make it even bigger now. Now we've got wider than only 40 with the list. So now we've substituted the arguments to wider than only into the body of wider than only. Notice that W in the body of the wider than predicate has been replaced by 40. In the next step, we have a local, and so we rename and lift. And look what's happened here. there's this new function, wider than $_0, which in some sense is a special version of wider than $, for 40. What's happened is the combination of having a function definition inside another function where the inner function's body refers to a parameter of the outer function. That's this closure pattern. The combination of doing that and the rules for function calling it local make kind of a function factory. Each time wider than only is called with a particular value for W, a new version of wider than $_ something will be created that's a predicate for that particular value of W. And then the rest of it is just a call to filter operating on each particular image's width. I won't go into the details for that. So what you're seeing here is two cases where the function that you want to pass to an abstract function doesn't already exist. In the first kind of case, that's wide only. You can define that function using a local, or you can define that function at top level. But in the second case, where the body of the function you need must refer to a parameter of the outer function, then you must define the function locally as what we call a closure. You can't define the function at top level here because the W doesn't exist at top level. The W only exists here inside the outer function. So this does not work. I've got two exercises left in this file for you to try. The first one is the non-closure case. The second one is the closure case. Work through those carefully, and I think you'll then be comfortable using local to define the function that you pass to a built-in abstract function.